You're turning in because you want to cut through the noise and really understand what's happening in our complex world. We get it.
We certainly do.
Today we're taking a close look at India's Operation Sindoor. That's the military action that followed the devastating terrorist attack in Pahalgam.
Right. You've likely seen the headlines, but a lot gets lost in those initial reports, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
So our aim here is to delve deeper into our sources, primarily detailed news articles covering the operation and its immediate aftermath to build a comprehensive understanding.
We want to unpack the key facts, the motivations driving these actions, and maybe the potential long-term implications.
Exactly. All without getting bogged down in just, endless detail. Get to the core of it.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning then. The event that really set everything in motion. The terrorist attack in Pahalgam.
Yes, April 22nd, 2025. The Bizaran Valley in Indian-administered Kashmir. It was the target of a truly horrific act of violence.
The details that came out were just awful.
Deeply disturbing. 26 civilians lost their lives.
26.
And what makes this particularly significant, or at least what's being reported, is the specific targeting. Hindu male tourists.
They were allegedly separated from the women before being killed.
That's the report, yes. And this specific element seems to have played a crucial role in India's subsequent response.
That detail, singling out Hindu men, it feels directly connected to the name India chose for its retaliatory operation. Sindoor.
It does, doesn't it?
For those who might not be immediately familiar, Sindoor is the vermilion powder. It's traditionally worn by married Hindu women.
It's a powerful symbol, represents marital status, well-being, protection, really.
So naming the Operation Sindoor seems to carry this profound weight, symbolic retribution, almost directly referencing the widowing of women in that Pahalgam attack.
Absolutely. This isn't just a name. It taps into a deep well of cultural significance, the sanctity of marriage, the vulnerability.
It feels like it amplified the sense of outrage within India.
No doubt. And it framed the retaliation perhaps as a matter of national honor, going beyond just a military response to terror.
Okay, so in the immediate aftermath, India pointed fingers.
Swiftly, yes. Accused Pakistan-backed terrorist organizations, specifically mentioned were Lashkar-e-Taiba, or Leti,
Jem,
Jaish-e-Mohammed, Jem, yes, and a group known as the Resistance Front, or TRF.
And Pakistan's response.
As anticipated, a denial. Pakistan denied any involvement in the attack.
Beyond the accusations, the war of words, India also took some pretty significant initial diplomatic steps, didn't they?
Yes, they did. The diplomatic repercussions were immediate and quite substantial.
I remember reading about the Indus Waters Treaty.
Exactly. India announced the suspension of its participation in the treaty. That's a long-standing agreement, governs water sharing.
Which is vital for both countries, especially Pakistan's agriculture.
Hugely vital. So that's a significant lever to pull.
Yeah.
And additionally, India expelled diplomats from Pakistan.
Further escalating already strained relations.
Right. These actions signaled a clear intent, to hold Pakistan accountable even before any military response was launched.
So we have this incredibly tense backdrop. The horrific attack, the symbolic naming, these initial diplomatic moves, and then we arrive at Operation Sindoor itself.
India's military response launched just over 2 weeks after Pahalgam.
Okay.
Correct. Operation Sindoor was initiated on May 7th, 2025. The strikes were conducted very early in the morning.
Like pre-dawn.
Yes, specifically between 1:05 and 1:30 a.m. Indian Standard Time. A very concentrated operation, lasted maybe 25 minutes.
That timing, 1 a.m., seems deliberate. Minimize civilian exposure, element of surprise.
Could be both. Standard procedure for such operations often involves leveraging the element of surprise under the cover of darkness.
And the targets weren't just in one spot, right? It sounds like this was geographically quite spread out.
It really was. India claimed to have targeted 9 distinct locations. These were dispersed, some within Pakistan's Punjab province.
Punjab, that's deep.
Yes. Areas like Bahawalpur, Muridke, Ahmedpur Shakia, near Sialkot, Chakargarh. And significantly, targets were also claimed in Pakistan-administered Kashmir.
Where specifically there?
Muzaffarabad and Kotli were mentioned. This wide distribution, it suggests a deliberate effort to hit multiple nodes within what India sees as, the terror infrastructure.
And some of those locations, Bahawalpur and Muridke, they have particular significance, don't they, in relation to the groups India blames?
Absolutely. High-profile sites. The reports specifically highlight the purported headquarters of Jaish-e-Mohammed in Bahawalpur
The GMHQ.
and a key base of Lashkar-e-Taiba in Muridke. These are places India has long associated with groups responsible for numerous attacks against it.
So striking them is a direct blow.
You'd have to assume that's the intention. A direct blow to leadership operational capabilities. At least that's likely the Indian perspective.
Now, how did they actually do it? The tactics. It wasn't boots on the ground, was it? More like precision strikes from a distance.
That seems to be the case. The tactics reported appear to prioritize precision while, crucially, avoiding direct violation of Pakistani airspace. That's the Indian claim, anyway.
How?
Reports suggest the use of Rafale fighter jets equipped with Scalo-P air-to-ground missiles.
Scalo-P. Those are long-range, precision-guided.
Exactly. They allow strikes deep into territory without the launch aircraft necessarily crossing the border. Standoff capability.
Were other things used too? Drones.
Yes, the reported use of loitering drones and other standoff weapons seems to back up this strategy, minimize risk to Indian personnel and aircraft.
Which implies pretty sophisticated intelligence gathering beforehand, too.
You'd have to assume so, yes,
Yeah.
to identify and locate these targets accurately.
Of course, in any conflict, the narratives diverge. What was Pakistan's immediate response? Their version of what happened during Operation Sindoor.
Well, Pakistan claimed a substantial response. They asserted their air defense systems engaged the Indian aircraft. They stated they had successfully shot down 5 Indian jets, including, they specified, 3 of the advanced Rafale fighters.
3 Rafales.
Yeah.
That would be huge.
And 1 drone as well. However, India has vehemently denied these claims, dismissed them as completely unfounded.
So total denial from India on losing aircraft.
Total denial. Interestingly, there was a report of an aircraft crash, but in Indian-administered Kashmir around the same time.
Connected, or just coincidence?
Unconfirmed. Its connection to Operation Sindoor or Pakistan's claims remains, well, speculative. It just highlights the fog of war, the difficulty verifying anything immediately.
Right, which brings us to casualties and damage. Always the most sensitive part, and again, likely conflicting accounts.
Precisely right. This is where the narratives are perhaps furthest apart. Pakistan reported significant civilian casualties.
How many?
They claimed 26 civilians were killed as a direct result of the Indian strikes.
26.
And they gave some tragic specifics, mentioning a 3-year-old child, a 16-year-old girl, an 18-year-old boy among the victims.
Oh, that's awful. Any injuries reported? Damage.
Yes, 46 people injured, they said. And damaged civilian infrastructure, mosques, residential areas.
Was there a specific site mentioned?
The report about a strike in Ahmedpur Sharkia hitting a mosque compound that got specific attention in Pakistani statements and media.
If that's verified, it raises serious questions about precision, proportionality.
Absolutely. Those are the key questions in such situations.
Okay, so that's Pakistan's account. What about India's perspective on casualties? Did they acknowledge civilian impact from their strikes?
India's claims were markedly different. They reported that 3 Indian civilians were killed
Indian civilians? How?
due to what they described as retaliatory shelling by Pakistani forces along the line of control, the Lasi in Kashmir.
So incoming fire after the operation.
That's their claim. India did not confirm any civilian casualties inside Pakistan as a direct result of their strikes.
But there were those other reports, weren't there? About militant-linked figures.
Yes, unconfirmed reports suggesting family members and associates of Masood Azhar, the GEM leader.
Might have been killed in the Bahawalpur strike.
That was the suggestion. Now, from India's perspective, those might be classified as militant-linked losses, even if not active combatants.
It's a huge difference in numbers, though. 26 civilians claimed by Pakistan, 0 confirmed by India from their strikes.
A stark contrast. It really underscores the difficulty, as you said, getting unbiased information in the heat of the moment.
Okay, let's step back a bit and think strategically. Operation Sindoor feels different from, say, the Balakot strikes back in 2019.
You're absolutely right. Balakot was essentially one target location.
Right. A madrasa complex they claimed was a training camp.
Exactly. Operation Sindoor, though, involved multiple targets, 9 according to India, spread across a much wider area.
And crucially, deeper into Pakistan proper, into Punjab province.
Yes, deeper incursions into Punjab than we've seen in a very long time. Some argue maybe not since the 1971 war?
That suggests a raising of the stakes, a higher threshold for India's response.
It certainly could be interpreted that way. A greater willingness perhaps to take bolder military action against perceived cross-border threats. This could really shift the future dynamics.
And the underlying strategy. The sources mentioned deterrence by punishment. Can you unpack that a bit for us?
Sure. Deterrence by punishment, it essentially means inflicting enough pain or damage on an adversary to make them think twice about repeating the action that provoked you.
Like making the consequences too high to bear.
Exactly. So in Sindoor's context, India's focus seems to be on degrading the infrastructure of those terror groups it blames.
Hitting their bases, their HQs.
Right. While apparently trying to avoid direct hits on established Pakistani military installations, that distinction might be important.
So the goal is cripple the group's ability to attack, send a message about the costs of supporting them.
That seems to be the likely aim. Cripple capability and send a very clear, very unequivocal message. Whether that kind of strategy works long-term, especially between India and Pakistan, well, that's the big question. It's debatable.
And there's always the domestic angle, isn't there? Especially for Prime Minister Modi's government. An attack like Pahalgam creates huge pressure at home.
Without question. The scale of it, the tragic loss of life, the reported targeting, that would generate immense public pressure for a strong, decisive response.
So Operation Sindoor can be seen partly as projecting strength.
You could certainly see it that way, yes. Reinforcing the government's national security credentials. These actions often play well domestically, bolstering public support.
That mix of strategic goals and domestic politics is always fascinating.
It's almost always a factor in decisions like these.
Okay, let's shift focus outward. The international reaction. How did the world respond to this major escalation?
The immediate reaction was pretty unified, actually. Calls for restraint, de-escalation from both sides.
Who specifically?
The UN, the United States, China, the UAE. Major players all issued statements urging India and Pakistan to, step back from the brink, avoid further confrontation.
The UN Secretary General warned about it specifically.
Yes. Antonio Guterres highlighted the dangers. Military confrontation between two nuclear-armed states. Potentially catastrophic consequences. That's the big fear internationally, preventing a wider conflict.
Makes sense. What about economically? Any immediate jolts to the markets, particularly in Pakistan, where the strikes happened?
Oh, yes. Definitely immediate economic aftershocks there. Pakistan's stock market reportedly took a significant hit.
How much?
A plunge of 5.78% in the immediate aftermath. That's quite sharp.
Wow. And travel disruptions, too. Airspace closures.
Yes. Both countries closed airspace, leading to considerable disruption. Airlines like Air India, Qatar Airways were mentioned as having to reroute or cancel flights, impacts commerce, passengers.
And India's markets, more stable.
Appeared relatively stable in the immediate term, yes. Though some analysts did flag potential longer-term concerns, increased defense spending, budget impacts, those sorts of things.
Market confidence takes a knock when tensions flare like this.
It's a classic indicator, reflects the perceived risk.
So we've looked at the attack, the retaliation, the immediate fallout. What does the path forward look like now? It sounds uncertain, potentially dangerous.
Indeed. That seems to be the consensus. Pakistan has already issued strong statements vowing to retaliate. They see it as Indian aggression.
Which raises the fear of an escalation cycle, tit for tat.
Exactly. Potentially mirroring what happened after Pulwama and Balakot in 2019. A period of high military tension, diplomatic standoffs. Analysts are definitely warning about that risk. Miscalculation, unintended escalation. It's a real concern.
We saw some third-party mediation attempts back in 2019, like getting the captured pilot released. Is that likely now? Can outsiders help cool things down?
Well, those past instances show it can play a role. But the current level of animosity, the mistrust between India and Pakistan, it feels exceptionally high right now.
So it tests the limits of communication. Even with health.
It absolutely does. It tests bilateral channels, willingness to even talk about de-escalation. The effectiveness of any third-party effort really depends on whether both sides want to de-escalate and how receptive they are. That's very uncertain.
And it's not just about military moves, is it? The sources mentioned other escalatory steps being taken by both sides, too.
That's correct. Beyond the strikes and the threat of more, we've seen other actions ratcheting up tension.
Like the Indus Waters Treaty suspension by India.
Yes, and the reported revocation of visas for Pakistani nationals. Those are big moves.
Yeah, Pakistan threatening the Simla Agreement.
Reports of threats to suspend Simla, yes. That's a foundational bilateral accord. Plus, both sides expelling diplomats, closing borders, airspace. It all builds this environment of extreme hostility.
And security measures within Kashmir.
Reports of a significant increase in detentions, stringent security measures inside Indian-administered Kashmir following the Pahalgam attack. It shows the ripple effects are widespread.
So, wrapping this up, Operation Sindoor, It's clearly a pivotal moment.
Yeah.
Risky, too.
Absolutely. It signifies a bold, high-stakes escalation in the relationship between these two nuclear-armed neighbors. You see that mix of symbolic messaging, the name itself.
Sindoor.
Right. And a clear demonstration of military capability aimed at what India sees as terror infrastructure on Pakistani soil.
And it really leaves us, and you listening, with a crucial question to think about. Given the nuclear backdrop, given the history of conflict, how might this operation reshape the long-term security picture in South Asia?
And what does it mean for international diplomacy? As everyone watches these two major powers navigate this incredibly delicate, potentially dangerous situation, it's definitely something that needs continued close attention, careful consideration.